Welcome to another episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast. I am your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure, as always, to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, leave your comments. And without further ado, we have a guest who I've been very interested in sitting down with for quite some time. Seems that we have some humans in common that we both know. And I'm very happy to finally be sitting down with you, Yishai. So to quickly introduce you, Yishai Fleisher is I would say, the spokesperson for Hebron. Just to quickly read this, because I'm looking at your website now. You're the international spokesperson for the Jewish community of Hebron, home of the biblical tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs, and a Middle East hotspot. Yishai works closely with U.S., Israeli, and global legislators and influencers on issues such as fighting BDS, recognizing Israeli indigeneity, fighting a historical appropriation, and strengthening the Jewish people's presence in Judea and Samaria. You are also the founder of Kuma, which is a nonprofit organization based in Israel and the United States, and it aims to connect the diaspora to Israel and strengthen the Jewish state's national character. Kuma works to share the struggle and the miracle of Israel through innovative media projects, including the weekly Yishai Fleisher Israel podcast, public events like the Israel Heartland Reception in Washington, D.C., renovation projects on the ground in Israel, and educational initiatives like the Israel Biblical Highway, which aims to teach about the historical highway connecting the Judean heartland. So
I think that's true. Yeah, I feel good about that.
You feel good about that? He also has a law degree.
Yeah, that's right. I just feel that's correct. That's a good summation. Yeah.
Accurate. Okay, great. I'm glad. So he also has his law degree from Cardozo. For whoever doesn't know, it's quite a prestigious school. It's definitely revered in the law school department. So thank you again for joining me.
Thank you, Rafi. Great to be with you.
Absolutely. So just to get straight into it, you've been on Piers Morgan, your social media. I started watching you when your YouTube channel was a lot smaller. I think I was watching you before you had even 10,000 followers, maybe because you grew immensely in the past year or so, especially since October 7th.
Well, for a long time, I was balking at doing video. I was much more into radio and audio, and it was easier for me, and I was able to do all my other stuff. And I just was like, my team was like, let's move over to video. And I was just balking at it. And then finally this war came. And one of the big changes that happened in my life was a turn towards video and taking it more seriously. And so, like you, Rafi, and so that the channel has grown because people need a strong message today, and the weak messages have just not worked for Israel. They're just not working. They're failures, and because of that, I think people are hungry for a strong message. You hear it all the time, and people are afraid to give off a strong message because we've been taught that Jews have to give, the PC line and the progressive kind of line, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And so I've started giving the line that I believe in, which I think is simple, true, not hateful, but strong Jewish, rational, religious and rational at the same time, because I believe that God is rational and that the Torah is rational. And these messages resonate, Baruch Hashem, thank God. So we've been doing that. And the other thing I was just reflecting on this the other day, like, it's been 10, almost 11 months since the beginning of the war, since October 7th. And I was just thinking about how life has changed. And for me, the YouTube channel has been, and the social media channel has been a big change. And the other change is that I became also a city councilman in Efrat, in Judea, and that has been very exciting and very interesting. I've learned so much in the past few months. It's a volunteer position to be a councilman, and one of the jokes I make is that I think I should actually start paying them because it's like going to school. It's just like going to school. There's been so much learning that I've learned about local politics, about Israel, about Israeliness, about how Israelis do politics, about how we Israelis do politics. So, or local politics anyway. So it's been a very hard time, a very painful time. But Rabbi Kook, Rav Kook, the first chief rabbi of the nascent state of Israel, said that during times of war, there's also the emergence of the light of Mashiach. And I think what that means is that wartime is a time of great growth, a spiritual, physical, just growth. If you go back to World War II, you see that it's a time of immense technological and otherwise huge changes in this world, and so too this war is bringing about changes. And for me in my personal life, I've been able to see changes, and also the way we fight for Israel is going through a change. So that's been this exciting and very hard year, and I don't want to minimize in any way the immense pain that also has been undergone here in Israel, that so many people have undergone, so many people have felt personally in their lives, so many orphans, so many widows, and so much loss and loss of the land of Israel itself, and just a lot of challenges inside of our country, including just yesterday here in the land of Israel, where we lost 6 of the hostages and 3 police officers gunned down. I don't want to say only that it's been a time of growth and wonderful up. There's been a lot of painful down as well, but it has been a time where we've been forced to wake up, and that's what we're trying to do.
Sure, sure. It's a very good summation. That's a lot. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to unpack. When I was actually speaking to someone named Harris Sultani as a YouTube channel, his family's originally from Pakistan. He's a Zionist, very interesting guy, doing very well on social media. And I was explaining to him how war, as unfortunate as it is, it brings upon a lot of resilience. It requires the community, the nation, to come together. They get stronger as a result. It's unfortunate, but it's I think a fact of life. It's a fact of human nature. There's always going to be war and conflict to some degree. So there, sadly, but at the same time, as you said, there have been pluses that have come from it. So I wanted to get into what brought about your work in Hebron.
So just to help people understand what we're talking about, Hebron is a city. It's a city that was King David's first capital. It is a city that has one of the most ink spilled in the Bible to explain about a purchase that Abraham made. Abraham, the first Jewish forefather, he purchased a plot of land in Hebron, and the Torah makes a big deal out of that purchase. And it's a city that's also was always Jewish. There was always a Jewish remnant there for thousands of years. In the Bible times, we were an ethnic majority. Later on, in the last millennia, we've been an ethnic minority, but we've never left. And through my mom, I started just falling in love with the place and falling in love with the fight to beautify it and to strengthen it. And I also saw that it was a city that the haters of Israel and the Israel shrinkers want to attack specifically and frame it in the frame of fanatical and extremist and settler violence and all this kind of stuff. And they have a few stories to kind of lean on, and they use those stories to completely frame the narrative via those stories, and they erase thereby 3,500 years of Jewish history in the city. And in 2002, I got a chance to marry my wife Malka there at the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs, and that may have had a tremendous effect on later on that I would end up working in the town. And I consider it one of the greatest merits of my life to work there. And there's another factor which is important, and this is a factor which is hard to explain to people who don't share these feelings. And those feelings are the feelings of loving the Bible, loving the Torah, and loving the narratives of the Torah. I have to tell you something about myself, Rafi. When I first went to college, you know what I majored in at first? English literature. I like literature. I love literature. I love books, and I love stories. To this very day, I collect stories. I love stories. Every Shabbat, I go through story books until I find good stories to tell the kids, and I tell them stories, Hasidic stories. I love to tell stories. I didn't even understand this about myself, but in part, I'm a storyteller, and I believe in stories. My best advice to people when they are like, you know, what is good advice for public speaking? I say to them always, tell a story. Don't give a philosophy. Don't give a Dvar Torah. Tell a story. Tell a story. And every week I speak in my synagogue every week, and every week I struggle. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard, but I always look for a story. Tell me a story. I think that people love stories. And the book of Genesis, Bereshit, is stories. It's the stories of the Jewish people's first family and foray into the land of Israel, and the tribulations that befall this family in the land of Israel. And it's a relationship between man and God as a dialogue in history and an actual dialogue between man and God. And Hebron happens to be a place where the stars of the book of Genesis are buried. Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah as couples. So it's also a city of love. And because I love the book of Genesis, and I really do believe that everybody should read the book of Genesis, and I love the Hebrew language, and I find it to be just endlessly intellectually satisfying, and always something new in it. And so I just wanted to cleave to something to do with the Bible. Maybe it has something to do with a certain simplicity. It's like, me like Bible, me like Hebrew, me like Hebron, you know, and also me like fighting for our rights, and me like where action is, and I don't like to be where the action is not. I don't like to be in a nice quiet place. I want to be where like the action's at. And so Hebron gives me a chance to do all of those things, and of course, the Lord above gave me the opportunity to do this work, and I'm eternally grateful. And as I always say to people, the most important thing is to ask God, can I have a small piece of your mission? If I can have a small piece of your mission, can I have a small part in your mission? And if he gives it to you, just fulfill that to the max. So I've gotten a chance to be a small part in his great dream and mission, and in the land owned by Abraham, and to work with people that I respect their great love for the land of Israel and their self-sacrifice and the history, and it just all comes together. That's the thing. It all becomes one organic thing. It's the language, it's the Torah, it's the place, it's the purchase, it's Judea. It's just all one. It's all one thing. And therefore it actually is a element of simplicity. It's let's say it's very involved, but it's also very simple. It's simple. It's where mom and papa are. It's where Abraham purchased a piece of land. It's where Jews have every right, and elements in this world, jihadists, progressives, Red Green Alliance, elements in the American administration and other places, they want us out of that land, and we have to fight to stay there and to develop it. So I guess that's a mouthful, but you asked me why Hebron, so there you go.
No, it's a great answer. Very good answer. What kind of tea are we drinking?
Raspberry tea, non-caffeinated. I'm going for a non-caffeinated week. I'm trying to go non-caffeinated this week.
Fair enough. Okay. So it's definitely a good answer. Definitely a good answer. I actually went to yeshiva before my army service, and when we went to Hebron for Chayei Sarah, I really Hebron was really a powerful place, and when I saw all the soldiers there for that week, that was definitely a turning point for me in wanting to join.
Right.
So
So
just to give,
let's just unpack that for people just a little bit.
I was about to do that. Yeah.
Oh, go
Look up.
ahead. I just
Okay.
in short, there's a Torah portion called Chayei Sarah, which you mentioned. That Torah portion is where the Bible references what I told you in the whole chapter talks about the purchase of the tomb by Abraham. He's negotiating for it. It's a very Middle Eastern dialogue that he has with the Hittites. And on that Shabbat, there's a major happening that happens in Hebron, and tens of thousands of people come. And also, it is a place. It is a militarized zone, so therefore there's tons of soldiers there, and that's what you saw is all these soldiers there. Yep, if you are the kind of guy like you are, Rafi, that it touches your heart to see these soldiers and you want to be a defender of Israel, it just calls to you. It just calls to you, and that's why you joined the IDF to take part in one of the greatest honors that a Jewish person can have, which is to be part of the defense of the Jewish people and the cities of God, and to be part of that. And you're still
Yeah,
sporting an awesome beard also, I want to say. That is some great beardage. That's right. You take pride in that beard. I see that.
I
I like
sure
that.
do, brother. I sure do, man.
I
Oh
like
man,
that.
you know where to throw that compliment. Absolutely. The beard is a very, very, very big part of my life. I
Yeah, it's
very proud of
strong.
it.
It's strong. Beards are
I
strong.
appreciate that.
It's important today. Listen, healthy masculinity is important today. You know, everybody's dissing on the healthy masculinity, and then they suck up to the unhealthy masculinity of the jihadists and the radical Islam, who are really the toxic masculinity. So good, healthy Jewish masculinity will lead to regional peace and Jewish strength. And let's not let the bad guys wear the beards. You know what I mean?
That's it, man. Oh, dude, my spirit animal. Okay, so a little bit of this. The your time on Sanchanim, you mentioned that so Sanchanim are the paratroopers. I do
Yeah.
make sure to focus on the non-Jewish listeners here. So obviously we have to peel back some onions, which you've been doing a great job at.
We
The
always we always focus on our non-Jewish friends because there are millions of people around the world that love Israel, that love God, that love the Bible, that love the national strength of the Jewish people, that think that the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is good and right and just. And
Mhm.
and I always in all of my programs talk to Jews and to lovers of Israel throughout the world. And I'm a big fan of theirs. I'm a big believer in theirs, and I frankly think it's part of the Jewish mission to speak
Totally.
to our brothers and sisters around the world that are part of the struggle for justice, for righteousness, and for God's vision. So I'm 1,000% for that.
Totally. Yeah, I don't even. It's funny. I don't even look at my podcast as a Jewish podcast. I'm not looking to just cater to the Jewish community whatsoever. I just happen to be a very proud Heb, and I like to cover this topic quite often. So it ends up happening. But I know that I have plenty of viewers that aren't Jew. Plenty. I get Muslim viewers. Some say good things, some say bad. But the negative comments are good in a way. We want to see more of those because it means I'm getting somewhere. So
Because the friends of Israel, they love a proud Heb. They
mhm,
just love they that's what they want. They want to see a proud Jewish person. It's an inspiration for everybody.
sure,
And or for the good people. And so they, the good folks out there, they want to see us strong. They tell us all the time. In fact, what they don't want to see us is be weak. And so many Jews think that speaking in weak ways or promoting ourselves as very sensitive to the evil of this world and very nice to the evil in this world, they think that wins us points. It doesn't. It just does not win us points. And I even have a scientific way of proving that. I just ask a simple question. Did the world like Israel better the day after the 6 Day War, when we won a lot of land, when we pushed back the bad guys, when we destroyed Arab armies? Did the world like us better the day after the 6 Day War, or did they like us better the day after the Oslo Accords, where we started giving away our land and started being weak and empowering the
Mhm.
jihadists. When did the world start to dislike us more? The answer is it's not even a question. After the 6 Day War, the world was enamored with Israel, saw Israel as powerful and
Mhm.
amazing and miraculous. And the minute we started appealing to the progressive side and the weakness and giving away our land and succumbing to the terrorists, the world started shying away from us because who wants to support a loser?
So true. I think I love this topic is a topic I've covered many times. I think if you look at it from an individual level, even if you meet someone, say you meet another guy, doesn't matter the age, if he doesn't hold himself to a high standard, if he doesn't have a level of self-respect, you're not going to think much of him. You'll maybe you'll want to help him, maybe you'll want to put some light into him, but you'll be like, well, that's a shame. He doesn't really think very highly of himself. But on the contrary, if he sees himself as highly, then it's a lot easier to respect him because he respects himself. I think it's even on a collective level, if we don't have that strong attitude in terms of having Israel as a Jewish state, being proud to be Jewish, people aren't going to think much of us. It's very simple. And I see Norman Finkelstein, what's his name? Gideon Levy, that son of the Israeli commander. I know you know who he is. You have plenty of these guys. I think then you have Sam. What's this guy who's always on social media now? He's on Piers Morgan, I think too. Jewish guy. I think he's a comedian. Sam something. Maybe Sam Harris. I have to get his name.
No,
There's
not
a
Sam Harris. Sam Harris is a self-styled atheist, but he's still a pro-Israel guy.
no, not Sam Harris. We're talking about someone else. No, I know. Okay, it's someone else. I'll send you his info. Um.
There's
Anyway,
always weak Jews out there, and weak Jews, what they do is that they actually they're not a cause of anti-Semitism, but they're definitely fan the flames of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a byproduct of Jewish weakness. Or let's put it this way: strong Israel suppresses the kind of natural urge of anti-Semitism. But anti-Semitism is a type of bloodlust. It's when they sense that Jews are weak, then it comes out, and they want to destroy
counts.
Israel and they destroy the Jews and destroy God. And but when the Jews are strong, that suppresses that appetite.
Well, because cowardice is repulsive.
It is. It
When
is.
you see, when you're a
It's
lion,
contemptible.
yeah,
It's
you want
contemptible.
to. It's like someone having a punchable face, right?
Right. It's contemptible, and it's and it's bad for the world.
Yep.
And I think that Israel has a role to play in suppressing evil in this world. Not only do I think that we should be strong to defend ourselves, I think we should be strong to liberate victims of jihad regionally from like South Lebanon. Like I don't
Hmm.
think we should have allowed South Lebanon to be taken over and destroyed by the jihad.
Right.
I don't think we should allow Iranian people to be killed and tortured in the streets by this awful regime that is a worldwide menace. A worldwide menace.
Hmm.
And I'll give you another simple. Here's a simple example. Okay, here's a simple one. The Houthis are slowing down global trade. They're making shipping be way more costly, and therefore the whole world is suffering from this. And so a container that used to ship for $3,000 is now shipping for $17,000. And so I think in Israel, which is these guys declared war against us. They declared it and shot
Hmm.
missiles at us. We should flatten them,
Right.
not only in the name of our self-defense, which is first, but secondarily to right the globe back to a place of justice, and not to let evil tyrants take over global shipping, for God's sakes. It
Without a
just
doubt. So
it just
why aren't
it's
other
like
countries? Why aren't other countries stepping in to smash them? And
why
what would
should
you?
other countries do it? Why should we take away? Why should we wait? Why should we allow others to take the great schut, the merit that we have to smash the bad guys? Why would I want to give that schut away? If God has given me the power is giving Israel the power. I don't want anybody else to take care of it. Like, please, coach, put
Right,
me in. I want
right.
that. I want that. I
So what
want
is?
I want to fight evil in this world.
I love
Let's
it.
use our army to push out and to not let these guys. And these guys are destroying the world. They're destroying Yemen, and they're destroying Egypt's economy, and they're destroying global economy. And the Chinese people are suffering, and everybody's suffering because of this. And things are more expensive everywhere. Hello,
Right.
like don't allow that to happen. So they've declared war. That's a great. Thank you for the excuse. You've declared war against me. Let me show you what war is about, buddy.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, what does smashing them look like? And then, well, let's start with that one.
I don't think there's many words that need to be said here. Bad guys, they got to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's put it this way. You have to stop their power to hurt you. You have to take
Right.
that minimally. You have to take away their power to hurt you. That's the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, I've never, like, there's some things in this world that are just so weird. Like, why would anyone in the world and Israel allow for a bunch of thugs to hurt global shipping? It doesn't compute in my head. I'm like, why should we allow that?
Right. The
Like,
other
are you
side of it. So I'm
it's
you know
just some
I'm
thugs with a few missiles that are and AK-47s that are like making a mockery of this world. What is that?
Yeah, it's crazy. What so just to play devil's advocate from the Muslim progressive side, they're like, well, they're defending, they're attacking Israel because of what's happening in Gaza. They're trying to make a statement and hurt shipping as a way to kind of force Israel to stop their war. Like, what would you say to those people?
Well, I would say first thing is that they're hurting the whole world. That's number one, and number two is let's just listen to what Hamas and the Houthis say in Arabic. They're not saying that they're trying to stop the war in Gaza. They're saying they want to destroy Israel. That is the credo, um, the platform of Hamas. Hamas is not there to liberate Gaza. They've already done that. What they're here to do is to destroy Israel in toto. They have a whole long, what's it called? The charter that explains it. So let's just take them at their word and let's stop being foolish. Let's just see what it is that they want to do. And they've declared war against us. They want to erase Israel, and Israel should not allow anybody to claim that they can destroy Israel or threaten us. And we have to fight them back. And if we have to live by the sword, then so be it. We have to accept that that's part of our lot. And we should never allow our enemies to develop arsenals against us and to endanger our people. We are a post-Holocaust people. We should have zero tolerance for anybody who prepares to injure one hair on one Jewish kid's head or one Israeli kid's head. It could be of the minorities that live amongst us.
Right.
But we cannot allow them to move chess pieces as they have done to injure us and to work in a long-term plan to destroy Israel. We can't allow that. We have to be more. And October 7th has retaught those people, has hopefully taught some people who have lost sight of that you cannot allow an armament to be built up against Israel under its nose, on its borders, or inside its borders.
I love when people say, Hamas changed their charter. That's what they used to say. And I go, you must be one dumb, son of a. Like, it's crazy how they actually think that changing the charter or removing something means that their goal has changed. And second of all, and I know this is a simple Islamic principle, taqiyya, the idea of saying whatever you want to say, giving the enemy or somebody that you're opposed to this narrative that makes them happy so you can go and continue
Right.
along the initial plan. It's just the most naive, ridiculous thing. When I hear Jews saying
Well,
it
it's
blows.
either naive, right? It's either naive, which it can be,
Mhm.
or that person is also taking part in Takia.
Right.
It's like, and sometimes we do it not exactly consciously. Sometimes the enemies of Israel the enemies of Israel hate Israel, and they look for rationales to do it, because just getting out there and being like, look, I just hate Jews.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say it. And so they need a rationale. And I want you to know that if you go back and read about Hitler, you see that he was a master conniving, master in creating narratives to justify horrific violence. He never
Mm-hmm.
just did it outright. There was always an excuse. He always excused it by saying, look, the Czechs and the Poles are abusing these Germans. I don't want any other land, just this Sudetenland. And then he got the world to help him get it. And then he kept going. And everybody's like, oh, wow, I think he just totally played us. And same thing for Holocaust victims. He would say, oh, don't worry, just take the shower and then everything's going to be good. You're going to be reunited with your loved ones. Don't worry, everything's going to be okay. And he leads you down the garden path. That is his way. He was a master at creating the rationales for his war on the Jews and war on the world.
Right.
There's that famous case where they used Polish prisoners to fake attack a German radio station. They had him dressed up as Polish army, and then they killed all of them. And they said, "Look, the Polish soldiers attacked this German radio station. Here's a rationale." They're always doing that. They're always creating these narratives. And the bad guys, they are masters at that.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to be is become masters of what we call in Israel, not to be a friar, not which is the Hebrew word, the kind of Middle East word for
Yiddish.
sucker. You cannot be a sucker. You got to see through it. If somebody says to you, Hamas changed their charter, all you have to be like, dude, come on. That's the answer. Like, dude, please,
Ridiculous.
dude. Yeah, don't
Friar's
tell me
Friar's
that.
actually Yiddish, by the way.
What's that? Oh, is it Yiddish?
Friar is Yiddish. Yeah, we use it in Hebrew, but it's Yiddish. It's originally Yiddish. Yeah.
You sure about this?
100%. I remember
Okay.
actually. Listen to the word. Does it sound? It doesn't even sound like Hebrew. It's yeah. I
think you're right.
When I first heard it, no, I'm because I remember in Israel when I was in the army, and I think we were doing some kind of lesson on something history. It was the history of language, how modern Hebrew kind of came to be, and yada yada. And there's Yiddish terminology. We have Yiddish words that we use in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll believe you, but I'll look it up.
Look it up
to kind of know. You know what I mean?
I'm actually very but I'm the guy. Yeah, it just makes sense. I'm pretty confident. Let's see. So real quick with this, let's not go too far into this. I mean, listen, if good conversation comes from it, why not? But Second Lebanon War, you were in the paratroopers, you served in the Second Lebanon. Did you serve in other wars or just that?
Dude, first thing I just want to say, it says it's mi Yiddish from Yiddish.
Yeah.
Friar, chofshi beGermanit comes from the word fry, like free. Mishmot panui lehovala, like you're free to be like taken down the garden path.
Right.
Yiddish miGermanit Friar me'ava. Okay, mehav rava. Okay. Anyway, and you're right. You're right. Thank you very much. You've taught me something. This whole show was just worth that. Appreciate that.
I'm happy. We have a few. There's other words in Hebrew that come from Yiddish. I just have to think about them.
But I didn't think that one did. But you're totally right. Cool. Really cool. What was the question? Your
time in the war at San Khanim, paratroopers.
I served in. I would break it down. I've never really thought about it, but now that I think about it, I'll break it down to 4 different distinct parts. One was my regular army service, which is in '95, and served also in South Lebanon at the time when Israel was in a security belt that they had created in South Lebanon. Then the second service that I did was during the Second Lebanon War, where I dealt with creating. I was living in America, and I just came back to Israel to live here, so I was drafted, and I dealt with creating landing strips for forward aircraft and that was actually a paratrooper thing. We had a unit that created these forward landing bases, landing pads, whatever, for choppers and for planes, and to go into the front. And then later on, I was in the special forces of the paratroopers, which was basically training for a particular kind of war, which I can't go into, a particular role in a war, but it involved a lot of helicopter work and Jeep driving and helicopter work. I'm not a helicopter pilot, but I am a Jeep driver. And then I was done, and I had the right to leave the army. I stayed in reserves for a few more years, and then although they wanted me to stay, I opted to leave because I was like, okay, you know, I think I'm done in the army, and they don't really need me. Um, and I was busy with a lot of other stuff. But when this war came now, then I volunteered to get back into the reserves. And this round, I didn't go to Gaza or Lebanon. What I did was actually I was in the local defense in the IDF of here in Judea and Samaria, and which is like a kind of like home defense type. You might call it a kind of militia, but it's really the IDF's local defense. And we'll see now where we continue. Our country, our beloved Israel, has now entered a phase where it looks like being in military service and in reserves is going to go on and on for a long time because the army just needs us. And so we'll see where I go from here. It was a good service. I enjoyed meeting a lot of local guys and being with good guys. And it was a growth experience, and I'm happy to be back in the army. Although it's not, you know, it is a time suck. It is, you know, it's intense, and you know your body's got to get used to less sleep and all that kind of stuff. But it's one of the greatest honors to serve in the first fighting force of the Jewish people in 2,000 years. Even though, you know, it's sad that we've had to come to this. It's a shame that we've allowed the enemy to creep up on us like this. It's a little bit like the Tet Offensive. I don't think there's been a comparison to the Tet Offensive, and I don't want to act like I'm a big knower of the Vietnam War. But from what I have read about the Tet Offensive, that basically the Vietnamese, the North Vietnamese, that kind of crept up on American army bases and bombarded them from beneath, creating a world beneath South Vietnam, beneath right next to the American army bases and even beneath them, and surprising them. That is a little bit of what happened on October 7th, and we should never allow that to happen again.
Without a doubt. But that leads me to asking you, I want to get your perspective on certain things also and play devil's advocate, because I know that whether it be in a month from now or in the next year, I'm going to be having these debates. And so this is why I've also watched your content so much. I've watched so many debates on this, so I've come to my own conclusions. And what would you say to people that said, well, maybe this was allowed to happen by Bibi, you know, so this way we had an excuse to smash Gaza, as if we should have that, which is great. Okay, what do you think?
I think the fact that Israel allowed the enemies of Israel to creep up on us, to build up a terror infrastructure beneath our nose is inexcusable. And I think it's inexcusable on the level of IDF intelligence. And it's inexcusable on the level of the political class, the prime minister, and the IDF. And I think that really they have not yet properly paid a political price, and that a lot of people that allowed this to happen should be fired and certainly should not be leading the war right now. And here in Israel, for some reason, there's these like concepts like, oh, you can't switch a horse in the middle of a race, like you can't switch the chief of staff in the middle of a war. I'm like, yeah, you can. do I think that Bibi wanted this war to happen so he could smash Gaza? No, I don't think so. I think that they were naive. And there's recordings of them saying just a few months beforehand, and even in the days beforehand, now stuff has been coming out, that they thought that Hamas was suing for peace, that they wanted governance. And I think it's much more dumbness, ignorance, what we call conceptia, or conception of who the enemy is. And I think it was a failure, a horrific failure. That failure goes on and on. It continues right now. It continues as we speak. The failures in Lebanon, that we've allowed our enemies to create a military infrastructure beneath our nose. It goes on in Judea and Samaria, the so-called West Bank, and it actually goes on in regular Israel as well. And the bad guys have set out chess pieces. And no, I don't think that Netanyahu created this so that he could smash Gaza. No. And he should have smashed Gaza a long time beforehand, the minute there was a whiff.
Totally.
Right. And on top of that, the minute October 7th happened, the first 2 weeks, and I said this on Pierce Morgan, they jumped down my throat. The first 2 weeks, they should have shut down the water, shut down the electricity, shut down the food, shut down the fuel, and forced all those tunnels to shut down, and had to, let all those fighters come out or die underneath the ground. And whatever happens to the hostages happens, because it's a war to make sure that it never happens again. And the way that this war has been prosecuted has been, in my taste, too slow.
What do you think?
And
could we just hold on the hostage thing, right? Because I'm hearing you from a very logical standpoint. I'm a very pragmatic person, so I don't take little things and get all emotional. I can understand nuance, and I understand that you also, what you're saying would be the most effective strategy without a doubt. What would you say, though, when you said hostages, whatever happens happens? Can we go into that for a second? Because obviously people are saying, but what about them? There are people. What do you say? Like, what's your?
Rafi, the things that I'm going to say now can be misconstrued as insensitive. And that is because, for some reason, people have some aspects of Israeli society and Jewish society around the world has become insensitive to the future and are only sensitive to the present. They just don't see where things lead.
Right.
And that's why what I'm about to say may strike them as insensitive, but I am being sensitive to the next hostage taken.
Right.
And I'm going. So but it's important to speak the truth, and that is, the minute the hostages were taken, I said, we have to fight this war as though they're dead, and just what we got to do is just smash and destroy and vanquish the bad guys, or else they'll do it again.
Yeah,
they'll just do it again, and we cannot have any deals with them. Like, do you remember that used to be a total mantra? You don't negotiate with terrorists. That was like a mantra. And in America and Israel and other countries that value freedom, you don't negotiate with terrorists. Why? Why is there such a mantra? Because when you do, they already won that minute you negotiate with them, and then they do it again
on a higher scale. They know that's their biggest piece. If they didn't have hostages, this war would have been, I mean, forget about it. It would have been easy.
And that's why you have to tell the families, we're going to do our best, but what our best is to smash the bad guys. And if your children come out alive, that'll be a bonus. But that can't be what this war is about. This war is about destroying these people and this infrastructure so that it never happens again. And your sons and daughters, and got taken hostage by the same crew that killed 1,200. By the way, the numbers are now that about 6,000 Gazans invaded Israel at 100 and some points, and about 2,000 of them, something like that, were just civilians that came to loot. The bottom line is that this war had to be prosecuted in such a way that we can't play a game. Do you know how many soldiers have died? About 350. And there's
You're saying
100 hostages.
just October 7th. There's been a lot more. There's been a lot more than that.
Altogether, I think that's the number that I understood. But I'm not playing a numbers game here. My
Yeah.
point is that from my perspective, the whole Bring Them Home campaign was a horrible messaging and a horrible strategy to fight a war.
Mm-hmm.
Our war is not to bring them home; it's to make sure that this doesn't happen again. That's the way that's what I think. And Hamas has to be annihilated, destroyed, and sent a message to the bosses in Iran and to jihad around the world that we will not tolerate you whatsoever. And there was a great opportunity. But if you fight a war just to force them to give back these hostages, it becomes an endless game. And they turn the knife in your back,
Yep.
and they show you another video, and they do these things, and here's a body part, and here's a this.
Now they're getting the Israelis. Now they're getting the Israelis to protest in Tel Aviv because they're feeding that psychological warfare. They know they can't win militarily, but psychologically, if they can keep turning that knife, like you're saying, they have a huge advantage because they're pulling on our mercy strings, and they're doing a very good job at it.
Right. And 1 second, I just want to find you. I a little bit lost you. Oh, there you are. Okay. And I was in Eastern Jerusalem on the Mount of Olives. That's where I lived when Gilad Shalit was released in an exchange for 1,000 terrorists, many with blood on their hands. And I was in my sukkah on the holiday of Sukkot booths when one of the murderers of Jews that lived on the Mount of Olives was released back into Arab society on the Mount of Olives. And there was such a roar of blood-curdling joy that came when he was released into that society. Now, we heard it. And we released 1,000 terrorists for one Gilad Shalit because there was a lot of pressure. What happened? Within months, the body count of the murdered Jews by those 1,000 released terrorists had gone to 7, 8. 8 Jews had been murdered for the release of one Gilad Shalit. And then I lost count because it kept going. And then they stopped reporting on who exactly these terrorists were. And then the big people that were released became the heads of Hamas. Sinwar was one of those people released. So you did a deal. You got Shalit back. You released these 1,000 prisoners. They became the heads of the thing that killed 1,200 Jews and took 100 more hostages. That's a fact. That's not my interpretation. That's not my feelings. It's simple. And I am amazed that common sense thing is not being discussed every single day. What are we talking about here? You give them more, any deal would mean the release of more of their fellow jihadists, and it's just going to happen again. And what's the biggest sticking point? What do they really want? They want Israel to leave Gaza and to leave the Philadelphia corridor and to leave the area so that they can what? Bring fighters back in, bring munitions back in, and prepare for the next war. And of course, declare great victory.
So I got a
question. So to me, it's just common sense. So sadly, the answer is, I just want to be clear. The answer is the hostages have to be seen as dead. And we have to fight as though they're not alive. And if we can rescue some of them, then Baruch Hashem. But if we can't, they are casualties of our negligence in allowing the terrorists to build up infrastructure of genocidal war against us.
So what would but I agree with you from a standpoint of protecting future lives and doing the thing that makes the most sense. I completely agree. I want to be clear about that. I completely hear what you're saying. The only thing I would say is if I, God forbid, had a kid, especially like a little daughter, God forbid, that was in that position, can you say that you would still be firm with that statement if it was your kid? God forbid. That's the only thing that I'm just trying
But
to
but
put. uh,
but
You know,
so let's answer that. So number one is that there are parents, I know them, of hostages who that's what they say. They say we have to fight and destroy the enemies, and my son or my daughter's release cannot therefore be worth the life of the next 1,200 people
it
that are
takes a
going to be
very strong.
killed.
Most
There are
parents,
people who say that.
right?
The other thing is that really a fair, is that really a logical way? Is that really a logical question? You know, if it's like, how is this society doing? Let me be a sociologist and try to see how the society is doing. This guy is right now being crushed under a car. Let me ask him, how are you feeling? Ow, ow, I'm in pain. Oh, this whole society is therefore in pain. It's not logical. Your question itself is an illogical question from the point of view of policy. The people that you're asking are in horrific pain. They cannot be asked to now make a policy for the country. If you want to make policy for them, then make sure it doesn't happen again. But we cannot have people. It's a horrifically hard moment, but you can't ask the parents of Gilad Shalit to make the right choice at that moment. We have
Totally.
to be somewhat dispassionate and somewhat cold. We have to administer the right medicine, even though it might hurt.
You should
I don't,
spot.
I don't, and when you ask that question, it could sound very callous, but we have to be real. Like, you cannot
Mhm.
ask people that are in tremendous pain. A child is has to get some dentistry done. Do you
Mhm.
ask the little child? Well, it hurts, so maybe he says stop, stop, so don't do it. Sometimes you cannot ask the person who's in great pain to make the policy for the country. You have to be a doctor. You have to look away a little bit. You have to be cold a little bit to that and be like, listen, I gotta
Do
save
its
the
best.
next generation.
Yeah. No, no,
And
no.
and,
You're
and what
spot
I'm
on.
saying is these things are common sense. It's obvious to me. It's not tricky. You have to have a certain dispassionate element, like way of
Yeah.
thinking when you're dealing with such a situation.
Yes. Because the reality is this is not a time to be overly merciful. There has to be a guarantee that this doesn't happen again. Rabbi Manis Friedman, I'm sure you've heard of him. He was on my podcast, and he was saying that peace, and I forget where in the Torah this comes from. Well, he didn't tell me. He had somewhere. There's a source that says that peace means that there are no major conflicts from your enemy in 40 years, in a span of 40 years. Okay. So he said until that happens, we don't have peace. And he is very much on the side of where we are. And you're making excellent points. I'm glad I'm asking you these questions because I want to get your perspective to see how you would
No,
answer them.
and you're right to ask these questions because people do ask them, and people sometimes kind of lose the thread a little bit because they're rightfully emotional. But again, there's an important thing to say here, Rafi, just to kind of make a point on it, which
Mhm.
is there also has to be mercy for that child who has not yet been abducted, who has not yet been murdered. Like, look a little past the here and now. If you empower these people, they will do it again and again and again. And that's a fact.
Yeah.
And so you have to have some perspective that is not locked into the here and now, but also sees which steps, what is going to lead to. And that's the thing that our
Right.
enemies are playing. There's this statement out there, which I think is true, that our enemies are playing chess and we're playing checkers. Checkers is like, okay, this move, this move. Chess is like you start to have, you start to see where it's all going. And the jihad has to be pushed back. and
Mm-hmm.
cannot be given a win here and on any level, or else we're really going to be, there's going to be global support for the jihad, and Israel's shrinking. Israel cannot allow itself to shrink.
Well, that's what leads me to the ultimate meat and potatoes, the Fleisher of the podcast, huh? So it's a good thing. I'm glad you're not vegan. I mean, you're so not a vegan. Your family lineage is is meat. That's great.
Well, the name Fleischer does mean meat and may mean butcher.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not found any history of butchering in my family. Sometimes on Twitter, pro pally folks are like, "You see, you're a butcher." But the truth is that actually, on my father's side, my great grandparents were um, the bakers and matzah bakers in a small town called Ostrovitz, and
Wait,
um, and from French, I also found that the word Fleischer in Old French actually means fortress, Fleischer, and it means in Old French fortress. I found that. I like that much better. And the truth is that I've never really been too attached to that name Fleischer, and actually would love to change it. And I have a name in mind, but it's something that some members of my family, don't love the idea of changing a last name. But I've never felt too attached to that. I much
I
more
actually
like my
do
my
that too.
Hebrew name that my parents gave me, which is Yishai, and that's the father of King David, and it's kind of super Hebrew. It's become a very popular name, Yishai, uh, and uh, and but okay, if I let's butcher some bad ideas, okay,
Sure.
and get some new ideas into the
I feel
into
like you know
the.
how to smoke some meat though. When I next time I visit, well, you'll have to.
It's funny you say that because I don't like smoked meat.
No,
I do love steak. I love steak, and I like to make steak. I like to make chicken, but I do love steak. But I actually like it not seasoned and not. I like it with as plain as possible with salt, and just kind of like the real. I think that meat by itself is has amazing taste, and I don't need it like I don't like fancy. I like it nicely done. And you're in Florida, right?
yeah.
In Palm Beach, there's a great kosher restaurant. I forgot the name of it. The guy makes great steak over there.
I wonder what it's called.
I'll find the name for you.
Okay. Either way, I can't wait to meet you. It's going to be great.
We'll
Uh,
sit on some steak here in Eretz
with
Israel, hopefully, or in
with
Palm Beach.
with either or, hopefully both. Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Okay, in terms of all this, right? I want to give you my perspective. Let's put this all out on the table. You asked me if I'm right wing. Not only am I right wing, let's call a spade here. I would say I'm a conist if we're being honest with you. Okay, it's said. So you can all rip it from this episode and mention it. I think the Arabs, we can call them Palestinians, are I think there are wonderful ones. I think there are some Arabs that can really be partners for peace. We have a lot of similarities with them religiously, uh, culturally, ethnically. The Mizrahi Jews came from those countries. We have a lot in common with them. At the same time, I think as Jews, as Israelis, we're not willing to accept the reality of what our war is, what our conflict is with them. And my perspective is that they do not want Jewish rule because you have all these pro-Palestinians in California and Michigan and other places in Europe and in the United States that want to say, oh well, when the Jews pre 1948 lived under the British mandate, but the majority Muslim population, they had peace with them. When the Jews that came from Yemen, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, etc., lived in those countries, they were always living in peace, which is not the case. This such a massive list that I can show people of times that weren't peaceful. And my ultimate feeling is you meaning the pro-Palestinian side, their thought is, well, we're not going to be at peace with you as long as you rule it. But if you relinquish rule, okay, then we'll let you live under our rule and we won't kill you. Okay, congratulations. So let me do that. So now you like me, which obviously won't be the case. What it really comes down to, in my opinion, we need to give them an ultimatum. You either accept Jewish rule in this land or accept the consequences that come with non-acceptance. And that's really what it has to be. This is a Jewish state. It's not a shared state you can live under our rule, but we're not going to sit here and make concessions and call it Israelstein. It's Israel, take it or leave it. This is what it is. It's really not that complicated. Saudi Arabia is not willing to now accept a 50% Jewish population. Morocco isn't doing it. Somalia isn't doing it. None of these countries would accept, if say they had a population of 10 million people in every single one of these Muslim countries, and now 5 million Jews wanted to go and settle the land and share the government seats with them, they would never allow it. But somehow we're expected to do that. So to that, I say, screw that. I think the whole idea is asinine, and we need to be firm on that. We need to be extremely firm on that. No more giving land. It's a ridiculous concept. Rabbi Manis Friedman also made an excellent point. He said, when we give them land, the Arabs are essentially saying, who are you to give me my land, right? Because they believe it's theirs. So when we offer it to them, they go, what are you giving me my land for? The whole thing is mine. Get out of here. You know what I mean? So it's just a ridiculous point. What I want to challenge you on, which my feeling is this, before I ask the question. I think there are three solutions to this. They're hard to, they're tough, but I think they're the only actual solutions. I don't think a one state solution is doable. When I say one state solution, I mean obviously Israel exists, but I don't mean a one state solution in terms of the right of return and letting millions flood into the country and live in Beersheba and all over the place. Two-state solution definitely isn't a solution. I think the only real solutions, because they're not going to go to Jordan where they should go, they're not going to do that, nor are they going to go to Egypt. So either they create emirates where, let's say, they have Gaza, Jews can settle in Gaza. We go back to Gaza, we live there like we do in the West Bank. This is our country. They can have their emirates, they can have Ramallah, they can have these areas. There's not going to be a Palestinian state. They're not going to have an army. Maybe they can have some kind of local police force. They're not going to have tanks. They're not going to have an air force. And we make sure that they're taken care of. Our military protects them so long as they don't attack us, obviously. And we can make sure that their infrastructure is good, that they have good quality of life. They have a local governance, because they're at the end of the day, Arabs are tribal. And true, yeah, Jews are tribal too. And so since they're tribal, they have the Al-Masri family and that runs Ramallah. They have the Al-Halabi family. I'm throwing in these last names on purpose. I think you get where I'm going. The Al-Halabi family runs Tulkarm and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we give it a test and we see how it works. And if they keep attacking us, which quite frankly they probably will, they have an option to either get out or we kill them. And it sucks to say it. It's not something I want to say, but same thing that you said, the same way you delivered your message about the hostages, this point needs to be made. People think war is this cute idea of proportionality where we fight war. If they throw sticks, we throw them back. If they only have such weapons, so we can't use planes because it's not fair. Was it fair in the in the War of Independence when we were outnumbered significantly, invaded on all fronts? Was it fair that we didn't have a country for thousands of years and we were killed in the Middle East, we were killed in Europe in gas chambers? Was that fair? Like, life isn't fair. All is fair in love and war. And we're not used to, the reality is we conquered this land. I think rightfully so, but we conquered this land. And we need to own up to that. We need to just say it outright and be proud of it. The Muslim world, this is my take. Curious to hear what you think of all that, and also curious to think of what I said about the three, I guess, alternatives are.
Okay, so I like very much what you said in the beginning, that Islam and the Arabs, they don't want to see Jewish rule. I think that that's true. I think that that's simple and true. And I think that if you ask most protesters and most folks that are out there, be like, do you want to see Jewish rule in the land? They're going to say no, of any kind. No, they don't. They don't want to see that. So I think that's very true. And therefore, the whole two-state solution language is a joke because they don't want to see Jewish rule altogether, and they're not going to agree to a two-state solution. They never say that they want a two-state solution. Only their diplomats facing west say that so that they could, get the American money and that support of the Democratic Party and all that kind of stuff. It's very important, I think, when we speak about these things, to take always one step back and to help people understand what Israel is. And here, and parenthetically, I want to say that Israel has done itself a disservice because it has a lot of times portrayed itself incorrectly. Israel is not, we'll talk about what Israel is not in a second. What Israel is a small national protectorate of the Jewish people, a tribal land, a type of reservation. We have an ethnic group numbering about 7 million people, and we live in a armed national state, a defended area.
An ethno-state.
And well, it's an ethno-state, but it's not correct to overly make that case that it's only ethnic, because we also have minorities that live amongst us, and those minorities are welcome as long as they are pro-Israel, pro-Jewish, non-jihadist. And we have those minorities. They're the Cherkessian minority, they're the Druze minority, and there's some in the Arab minority, and there's some even in the so-called Palestinian minority that are pro-Israel, non-jihadist. But what Israel is a tiny protectorate, an Indian reservation within a hostile region. And if you can't get that piece through your head, you got nothing. If you can't get that, that's what Israel is all about, which is a tiny tribal area defending its tribal group, and that this is a tribal region that understands that, and that there are other tribes that are related to us ethnically, religiously, linguistically, etc., and that tribes that can't defend themselves get erased. And so this is our tribal land. If you can't say that, and if you can't compute that, then you don't understand the region. You don't understand the situation at all. You just don't get it. And so that's why on most interviews, I try to take out a map and just to show it to people. That's the most important thing to understand. If you can't get that Israel is a tiny country in a giant Arab region, and that we have to defend ourselves because that's the nature of this region, and that if we don't, the jihad will come and erase us, as they've tried to many times. If you don't understand that, you don't understand the whole posture of Israel. It's not the only democracy in the Middle East. That's not what it is. And it's not, it's not this. It's not a machine of liberal values. Yes, it has liberal values. Yes, it runs a form of democracy to govern itself, but that is not what it is. What it is an ethnic, national, tribal region, small within a bigger, aggressive region, and it tries to defend itself from an aggressive majority. And similar to us, there are other such entities like the Kurds. The Kurds are a great example about what Israel is, and I say that on every interview. The Kurds are also an ethnic minority, not liked by a lot of people, even though they're Muslim, and they've congregated themselves into a small region, and they defend themselves. So that's what Israel is. And there are efforts to erase Israel either through massive army onslaught, 1948, 1956, 1967, 1973, or more recent efforts to shrink Israel piece by piece, encroach, have Israel leave because of internal reasons, South Lebanon, and parts of Judea and Samaria, the essential homeland, the essential heartland of the Jewish people, Gaza. They've shrunken us, and every place that we've shrunken from has become a forward base for the jihad. That is a fact. And this shrinkage is a sign of weakness in the Middle East. It's a sign that we're going to go away in toto. Just give it time. And so shrinking in our tiny land already shows that we are disappearing. And the jihad in this latest round has managed to shrink us even more. They've shrunken us out of Gaza, and now they've shrunken us in the communities around Gaza. They've shrunken us from the security belt that we had in South Lebanon, and now we've shrunken away from the Jewish, like salt of the earth communities of northern Israel.
Mhm.
So in short, that's what Israel is. It's here to defend its minority in this region, minority ethnic population. That's what Israel is. And once you get that, you're like, oh, okay. Now, with regarding to the minority of Arabs living in our country, we should not allow jihadists or Israel haters to live amongst us on our borders or inside our borders. And therefore, we should extend residency to pro-Israel, non-jihad Arabs, Christian Arabs, Druze, whatever they are. Some people say with a pathway to citizenship for those who prove themselves to be loyal and loving citizens. Others say, no, residency is quite enough. A residency with a Bill of Rights is fine. I don't think, Rafi, that your suggestions about more experimentation is needed. We're done with experimentation, Rafi. It's over. The experiments have failed. Jihadism should not be allowed to have one little tiny toe of land and control here in this region. We should have zero tolerance for jihadism, for its promulgation, for its teachings, for its mosques that teach it, for its schools that teach it, and certainly for its media that teaches it. We should have zero tolerance for it. Not a very liberal version of very tolerance for the jihad. We should have intolerance for the intolerant. And therefore, I say it's really simple. Residency. Some people say pathway to citizenship for those who prove loyalty. Maybe. I think I prefer the idea of residency. Generally speaking, that doesn't mean that you can't have travel papers for pro-Israel, non-jihadist Arabs. They should have travel papers. They should have freedom of movement. They should have upward mobility. They should serve in the army or at least national service. There should be zero Arabs who don't serve if they want residency of this country and certainly citizenship. And in short, we've got to defend our motherland, defend our borders, make sure that haters don't have a place inside our land, certainly, and give lovers of Israel an excellent opportunity for life. And by the way, our Torah tells us to treat the sojourner with kindness and with equality of some measure in terms of upward mobility and opportunity. But haters, zero tolerance for haters. That's a formula. Now, that formula is even a little bit bigger. That's the formula to survive within our borders. The truth is that a strong Israel, the one I'm describing, will actually make peace, quote unquote, with regional allies like the Abraham Accords. This comes, it's a cliche, but it's true. Peace through strength. The Arabs will respect us as being like them. And I've got no problem in that sense of being like them. Mm-hmm. And they will want our military prowess, our economic prowess, our touristic values that we bring, our technological abilities to help grow this region medically, road-wise, every which way. And that's only going to come when Israel is robust and gives zero quarter to jihadism in our land or on our borders. That's basically it. It's simple. It's simple. You want to have Chinatown where Arabs have in Hebron and Ramallah, where pro-Israel non-jihadist Arabs have a Chinatown-like cultural thing going on in their region, fine. I got no problem with that. But if I get a whiff of anti-Israel jihadism, the kibosh comes down, and there's absolutely no tolerance for that. That's the way to go. What I'm saying now makes total sense to every Arab you speak with that wants a decent opportunity for a life here. Every Arab will be like, that's right. And famously, in my world, my colleague Noam Arnon went to an important Arab chieftain and said to him, look, here's the peace plan, what I just laid out. And the Arab chieftain says to him, after deliberation and thinking about it, he goes, Noam said to him, you'll be residents, but you'll have upward mobility, but you live in Israel, but you can still keep your identity, but zero jihadism. And the chieftain says to him, I like it. I really like it. But now you'll have to force me. Force me, and I can swallow it.
Mm-hmm.
But don't make me now proclaim that I love Zionism and I love Israel, and I have therefore forsaken my Quran and forsaken my Arab honor and all that. Force me, and I could keep face.
Mm-hmm.
Force me to accept these terms which are good for me, but don't make me be like, you know what? I just love Israel. I love Theodore Herzl and Rav Kook and it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. You want me to live with you in peace? I will, but force me. And if you can't understand what I just said, you don't understand the Middle East.
Nope.
And if you don't understand it, you actually respect the Arabs and you respect their honor. And you say, I understand. I have to force you, and then you will comply. But my liberal colleagues do not understand that. They just do not understand. They think that you should forsake the Arab honor and get them to agree to some kind of like arrangement. It doesn't work that way. You have to force, you have to defend your ethnic region, your tribal lands, and people understand you as being part of this region.
By the way,
and that's the road. That I just laid out to you the road for peace.
I think it's more Islam than Arab, because I think the Druze we don't have to force them. They have a great quality of life and they respect the nation they're under. And they are like, we're not living under.
First thing is they would very much balk at being called Arab. But
right.
On the other hand, they are an Arabic-like people. They speak Arabic. And bottom line is, listen, even the Druze respect strength. I tell you.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And they tell me what I just told you. They say the same thing. They're like, you have to be strong. You've got to crush the jihad. You got to make order around here. That's the way our region is. You ask any Druze, any serious Druze, they're always like, you guys are too weak around here. You're too
100%.
weak. They say it to me all the time. So
we need a Druze prime minister. Yishai, I think we need a Druze prime minister. I'm telling you.
No, we can't have a Druze prime minister because that sends the wrong signal. But Druze can live here. And by the way, what is the Druze credo? Funny, she doesn't look Druzish. But what is the Druze credo is that they're like, whoever's strong, we shall respect and live under.
Yeah.
So bottom line is, and again, everything I've just said now is actually common sense and normative Middle East thinking.
Right, but
and you know what the big enemy, Rafi, is? Haughtiness. It's a big part of the progressive problem. They just don't accept the Middle East creed. They just don't accept this region for what it is, and they just think they could just like tell this region how to exactly be on every front. And they just don't want to hear this common sense stuff that I just said, which is really everything that I've said is also a fruit of hundreds and hundreds of conversations with Arabs, and Druze and other minorities around here. That's the way forward.
Okay, but here's the thing. I like your idea, but what do you do with a population? Because if we're doing it according to the way you say to do it, how do you? I mean, we're talking about as many of them as there are of us, so we're not going to be a majority anymore. Very quickly, they can outnumber us, aside from the Haredi population. How do we guarantee our safety and just think that they're not going to try to overpower us? We're going to have millions of them. I mean, it's already 20%. If we allow the Gazans, the Arabs from the West Bank, we now have I mean, as practically as many of them as there are of us. What do we do? How does that? How is that not a massive danger to us?
It is. It is a massive, massive danger, and that danger has now come to fruition. And Israeli Arabs are arming themselves. Judean Samaria, so-called West Bank Arabs, so-called Palestinians are arming themselves. Gazans are well armed, and South Lebanese and Hezbollah, they're armed against us. If I wasn't clear, I'll make it clear. Jihadists got to go.
Yeah, but you should.
Anybody who's affiliated with jihad. Anybody? Do you know? Like
No,
I would say.
I'm agreeing.
I would say the vast majority are. Listen, this is the Jewish land. You either abide by the credo, by its laws and bylaws, and be a loyal and loving citizen, resident, or you have no place here. What does my brother Josh say? He says the three Gimels, the three G's: get out, ger toshav, or giur. Right? Either you leave. Oh, or what does he say? Either war, or you become a resident alien that accepts the thing, or you convert to Judaism. That's also possible. But the bottom line is is that we have to act like a Middle East power. And whenever, by the way, the Palestinians have endangered, I replayed a video, and the man there was explaining that wherever Palestinians lived in the Arab lands, when they started endangering them, they just kicked them out. They kicked them out of Kuwait, and they kicked them out of South Lebanon. They kicked them out of Jordan, the PLO. These guys are endangering our national enterprise.
Where did they go when they kicked them out? Not that I'm just
curious. You know what I want to say. Palestinians today live in Patterson, New Jersey, in Michigan,
Chicago,
in Chile, in Chicago, in Chile. They are welcomed in Australia, Scotland, Spain. I think that they can help go to Ukraine. Not to mention that they work at the UAE and in Turkey. And so there are many, many opportunities for them, and they could stay in Israel, those who are non-jihadist. But we have to 1000% go towards a policy of ridding our land of jihadists and jihadism.
But Yishai, here's the thing. I like what you're saying, and I think, we're in a group. The thing is, I feel like I'm either I'm more right wing than you are, or you're not saying what is the complete thought, even though you've been super straightforward. I just think that Islam in and of itself, from a fundamental standpoint, if you're actually following it the way it is, then you can't accept Jewish rule in the land. You can't accept it.
We've said that. Okay.
You're right.
I agree with that
1,000%. What I'm saying is you're talking about jihadists.
Interesting. I just want to make a point to you, which is my mother says this, and it's true. When you speak to Muslims, you can make an argument with them, which is to say, you have your lands, but this is what Allah has given us, this land. It's even in your Quran, and we have absolute right to self-rule in this land.
Right.
And some can accept that kind of thing. But again, Israel has never made an Islamic argument to Islam. We could have made an Islamic argument. We could have been like, Allah has, this is what I say to Arabs, Allah has blessed you. Here's your lands, and Allah has given us this land, and it's even in your Quran. Accept the will of Allah.
Right.
But we don't make that kind of argument. We're always making Western liberal arguments.
We
don't make God arguments. We don't make Allah arguments. This is
why I enjoy talking to you so much, because there's all of these Jewish Americans that came out after October 7th with their platforms, and they're sitting there running in circles with these silly arguments. And I'm here with my smaller channel, balls to the wall on what's really the case. And everyone's like, well, they say this, and so we say that, and we'll do it. I'm just like, just get to the point.
I need to say something now before I forget it again, because I wanted to say it earlier, and you've just brought it up to me right now. And the way you just acted right now, you did exactly, what did you do? You did a kind of Woody Allen type thing, right? That was the little act that you just did. If you say this and you did that, it's like, I mean to say you were acting like they sound, and you did a little like, man, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? the transition that the Jewish people are going through right now is the transition between Yaakov and Yisrael. Yaakov, Jacob, is the one that held on to the heel of Esav, of Esau. And all his life, he had to get the blessings in a tricky way. And his father-in-law kept on tricking him, so he tricked him back. And he had to run away and escape at night. And he had to give gifts to his brother Esau so that he doesn't kill him. And there was always this way that Yaakov operates, which is clever and understanding the system, what we call in Ashkenazi shtadlanut, always operating like Joseph in the court of Egypt, or Mordechai in the Persian court, always operating within the systems and knowing how to navigate, how to say the right thing, like Esther. I'm not going to ask him tonight. I'll make another feast tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll ask him, and all these operations within. That is Yaakov. That is how a Jew survives, and has survived masterfully, but has survived in the diaspora. We must transition from Yaakov to Yisrael. Yisrael is Yashar El, straight to God, or Sar El, which is a minister of God. But the point is that it's a different rubric.
Totally.
It is you're the boss now.
Mm-hmm.
You're the sovereign. You've got to make very clear rules. You're not Yaakov operating in a clever and sometimes even sly way in order to survive. It is now
kind of dodgy. It's like you want
dodgy
to avoid
and smart and clever. It's not always dodgy, but it's, what is the ruler thinking? Is this the right day to say it to him? I'll say it like this. You know what I mean? I'll help elect this guy here, and therefore we'll pass this law here, and this will send money to Israel this way. All these kind of like, Israel is a different modality for Jewish people. It's a different modality. You're the boss. And what you said now, this is a tremendous philosophical challenge of our time. What you said about your friends, these, God bless them, and I respect them and love them, but the diaspora Jews, is that they're in that modality. They think that Israel needs to survive like they survive within the diaspora rubric and way of behavior. Israel is not that. Israel's a nation state. It has to be clear, with clear policies, clear borders. What happens to you what is jihadism? Here's how we define it. Here's what happens when you do it. This is what happens to you. This is what you can expect. And here's what good citizenship looks like. And here's what our borders are. But what we're doing right now in Israel, we're still doing that Yaakov thing. Okay, we'll hold on to Gaza militarily, but we won't resettle it. And our borders we'll have settlements and our military will be there, but we won't announce that it's totally Israel, and that way we won't have to give them citizenship. And it's always this game. And what I'm arguing for is time for Yisrael. It's time for clarity. This is our borders. This is how you could live amongst us. This is what we understand is good, and this is what we understand is bad. These are the laws of the Jewish state. This is what we mean as good residency or good citizenship. And this is exactly what will happen to you when you mess with us, because we're badass to the bone, and you will not mess with us. And here's our Yisrael. That's our super suit. That's what it says when we peel off the Clark Kent, we're Yisrael underneath. That's really another thing. Clark Kent versus Superman. That's exactly what it is. We're back in our land. We're the sovereign. And so it is important to get what you described as how your friends, colleagues, and good people who have good interests, their attitude is to continue to like be a little sneaky, and if he says this and I'll say this, and
they just dabble in useless arguments. Like when I've been on a few shows, Yishai. I was on there's this guy Hotep Jesus. He's this
you got to help me know all these shows. I don't know all of them, Rafi.
Anyway, I met him at some networking event. I had him on, and then it was live, I think. And then after the live, one guy came on and he's like, "Oh, that Rafi guy's a stone cold killer," you know. He's like, and I was like, okay, you know. And then he he was calling. They were just making all these Zionist comments, but other than bashing me for being a Zionist, none of them had any really good arguments to what I said. I think they were taken aback by how straightforward and unapologetic I was. There was even a point where the host, rolled his eyes at something I said, and I just called him out on it. I was like, I was just like, I don't know, you want to have a conversation and disagree with me, fine. Don't make these facial expressions like what I'm saying is somehow not intelligent because you don't actually have a good response to it. And he tried to like make believe that wasn't what he was doing, but he was doing it to appeal to his audience that may have been largely anti-Zionist or anti-Israel. So you get what I'm saying? You get the psychology of what he was trying to do. So anyway, I think it was a great episode. I can send.
Do you like my paradigm of Yaakov versus Israel?
It's great. I think it's excellent.
It's very important, Rafi. Very important for you because you are out there broadcasting the consciousness of a Yisrael.
Yeah.
And the people that you're fighting with, arguing with, they still stuck in the consciousness of Yaakov.
I think they respect. I think it does very well. I think people. I did a debate with Mordechai Kedar. I'm sure you've heard of Mordechai Kedar, right? So
he's one of my rebbes. He's one of my teachers.
No, he's excellent. So he was on my side. He came to Miami.
Sure.
We went out for breakfast. He came to Miami. We were in my apartment. We did a Zoom meeting with a Palestinian American and an Egyptian American, and I think we killed the debate. I mean, I think we easily. I mean, he came from Dr. Kadar's.
You can't stop him. He knows Arabic better than Arabs, and he knows Islam better than Muslims. So you can't stop him. You can't stop him.
I brought the best weapon. I mean, forget about it. He's incredible. I've seen his Arab debates on Arab news stations.
He really does understand Arabic better than Arabs and Islam better than Muslims. But let's get back to Tachlis though, Rafi.
But what I'm saying, Yishai, the thing is I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. The thing is,
what's bothering you? What's bothering you? Tell me what's bothering you. Tell me what's on your heart. What is it? What is it that you can't what is it that you can't overcome? What do you want me to say? That we got to kick out all the Arabs? I told you we got to kick out jihadists. That's as far as I'm willing to say it. But the bottom line is bad guys can't exist in our land.
No.
Just to do that would be a policy sea change. And we allow jihadists in our Knesset, bro.
I know, it's crazy. I'm an Oda and TB and whatnot.
I'm an Oda is such a bad dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And people don't understand why he's bad. So let me just explain to you. He's an Israeli Arab that got an amazing education in Israel. He speaks fluent Hebrew, fluent Arabic. I know where he's from because where he's from is where I'm from. And we're practically the same age. He comes from one of the most privileged Arab societies in Israel. He should have been the leader of normalization of Israel in the Arab eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, he turned his back on us, went jihadi as a Knesset member, and makes so much trouble in the Knesset. And to me, he's actually a great disappointment because here's the Arab that could have been the pro-Israel Arab, but he took it the exact opposite way, which is a failure. And it's a failure of a lack of clarity. It's a failure of a lack of strong Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
Weakness breeds contempt. Remember that phrase. Weakness breeds contempt. It's just that simple.
No, it's an honor thing. Even the Arabs that first of all, there are absolutely Israeli Arabs that absolutely would rather live under Jewish rule than their own rule, without a question. Many of them won't outwardly say it because of Arab pride. There's such a pride in their culture. They'll kill their daughter if their daughter is raped. They have this pride that to their detriment that they can't get rid of. And unless we have a strong enough presence, unless we demand our respect, our society, our GDP could be light years higher than they would have as Palestine, we just know that's true. Our GDP is 525 billion, more than all of the neighboring countries combined. And the Arab Israelis get to live in this society and benefit from it, but they can't, for the life of them, admit and accept that because it's just we'd be relinquishing our Arab honor. And there are those that do it, but there are so many of them that, again, benefit from all these amazing things and just can't accept it. And so we need to say, okay, you know what? Whether you want to accept it or not, you need to. It is what it is.
I just want to correct you though,
Yeah.
vis-a-vis GDP though.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia's GDP is higher than Israel's. It's because of oil exports. But it's important to know that
Oh, so well, I wasn't talking about Saudi Arabia.
right. It's just important to know that, and UAE is almost it's in parity with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they have oil. Sadly, Qatar is also does well, not as well as Israel. But the point is that these guys have a strong GDP because of that great. I mean, there's tremendous wealth in Saudi Arabia.
But
Tremendous
also
wealth.
funny how I find it funny how a lot of the Arab nations that are doing exceptionally well have good ties with us, and I think that
That's right. That's
and
right. And why is that? Why
I
is
think
that? And they
but
because they want a normal future. But here's the thing: they
I
would
think
have
it's more
better
of the
ties with us. They would have better ties with us if we stopped being ninnies and sissies and took care
right,
of business. You know,
right.
you know the jihad afflicts Saudi Arabia. It afflicts Morocco. It afflicts the UAE. They want to destroy and defeat the jihad, even though Saudi Arabia is one of the original teachers of jihadism,
Right.
Wahhabism. But they would respect Israel so much more if we took care of business. And that's,
So
people don't understand
what's our
that
problem on a psychological level? Are we still in we're still in diaspora mindset? We're not
part of
used
it
to
is Yaakov. I would say it breaks down to different things. Part of it is diaspora thinking, exilic thinking. Part of it is, and within that is a fear of Jewish strength and Jewish power. Part of it is hubris, tremendous hubris that comes in the progressive and liberal camps of not wanting to be like Arabs, not wanting to be Middle Eastern, and having a very superior posture vis-a-vis the region and vis-a-vis also common sense. I don't want to get into it now too much, but it's a whole posture of hubris towards common sense because they don't like common people and they have a more enlightened vision. Part of it is foreign influence and fear of part of it is United States and our alliance with the United States and its force that has been a force of weakening and shrinking Israel for a long time, and our kind of um, uh, um, like puppet state attitude towards the United States. That is part of it. Part of it is a lack of Jewish ignorance of Jewish values, Jewish knowledge, biblical consciousness. There's a lot of biblical illiteracy, unbelievable amount of biblical illiteracy. Part of it is the international left, like Soros and those people working to create an erosion in Israeli society. Part of it is ignorance about how other democracies operate, and that democracy does not mean that you allow the enemies to be at your throat and that you don't allow every kind of Nazism or jihadism in your country. And many of these factors come in to really emasculate the society from acting in a masculine, and I don't mean male, I mean a masculine, a forward and aggressive posture. And all those have different drips into the Israeli psyche. Also, I think a certain kind of here in Israel, the right wing, there's only recently has a right wing channel developed properly. So the Israeli mind is somewhat stilted sometimes, and and a little bit what's the word, provincial in understanding how to deal with things. All these factors together have the left has undermined the study of the Bible as well as the study of Arabic. Bring the Bible back and bring Arabic back, and Israel will be in much healthier shape. Those are just two examples
bring
of,
Arabic
of
back.
study the study of Arabic. Every Israeli should know Arabic.
Right.
You know Arabic, you're in much better shape. You understand the region much better. There's a certain element of Israeli society which just fancies itself as a type of south of France, Western Europe consciousness, and they're not connected with national thinking like Poland, like Hungary, like the Czech Republic. They're not connected with anti-jihadism like you have in India or in other countries. They're not connected with religious philosophy like you have in the American Christian, right. And so they are really detached. And these are all factors in the psychology of Israel. You know what? As I say this, I think to myself, that would be a fun essay to write, which is, what are these contributing factors that make Israel be not fully robust and masculine like it should be, and acting, in my opinion, in a way that actually engenders a tailwind for the jihad. Those are a lot of factors there, but I really think that all of them contribute in different ways.
No, I think
to
it's
Israeli thinking.
I'm just thinking about how to.
It's not just one thing. You see what I'm saying? It's not just one thing. There's a lot of stuff at play here that weakens your resolve. I also think that the progressive jihadist alliance, it works by first completely erasing your national pillars of strength. You could see it in America as well. They erase your history. They weaken your army. They take away your pride in your national symbols and national history. They weaken your army by making it, an army that is not as masculine and aggressive, and they undermine your faith in your own society. They call for equalities, but what they mean is that basically you let in jihadism as a equal value to your society. And all these factors, they weaken. They try to weaken our society. The counter of that is that we have to teach more Bible, more nationalism, and I don't mean a nationalism. I mean a real nationalism, which just takes pride in its land and its culture, not in any way an imperialistic nationalism. And that's the future. The future is a strong Israel with prideful citizens, with minorities that love Israel, respect the fact that it's a Jewish state, but still want to use its upward mobility, and a region that rejects jihadism and that accepts Israel as part of the broader family, the Semitic family, the Abrahamic region. That's the future, I think. Totally. I hope, of course, and I pray for that every day, and I fight for it every day.
I completely agree. I wrote a few points down. I think what you're saying is spot on. I agree with everything. What I'm curious to know is more than what should be the outcome to create peace. I don't know if we'll ever have complete peace. I think Israel will have enemies forever to some level. I think it's our destiny.
That's right. That's right.
But I think,
and maybe the word itself is not such a great word, peace. Maybe the word is regional cooperation, alignment. Maybe the word is maybe the word peace actually is itself a word that weakens our understanding of ourselves. Maybe the word peace is not the right word. Maybe the word is a strong Israel, strong people set on its land, working in cooperation with like-minded folks in the region.
I think we're always
the word peace does not mean what it's supposed to mean.
Right. I don't think we're going to have a situation where we have no terrorism whatsoever in 20 years. I think there are always going to be some level of attacks or attempted attacks. And I think that's God's way of reminding us of who we are, to keep us together when things are, when there's nothing going on at all. We're more likely to intermarry, forget who we are. This has been an issue. Jews have done this in the diaspora too much. We forget who we are, and it happens all the time. And I don't think you have to necessarily be the most religious person. I'm more traditional, truthfully. I'm extremely proud. I mean, There's nobody that knows me that doesn't know I'm Jewish. I mean, it's like one of the first things that comes out of my mouth. Uh, what I'm curious to know is what do you think about foreign aid in terms of, and I think you've said that you're opposed to it. I know I am. Is it
I'm opposed to the term foreign aid. I'm not opposed to joint defense research. I'm not opposed to grants to companies to work together to develop stuff. I have no problem with that. But I have an absolute aversion to the idea that Israel should be reliant on anybody. I don't like the fact that they say it all the time. Of course, $3 billion of aid is a drop in the bucket in what you said, $500 billion GDP.
Mhm.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't look right, and we should not be accepting it. It's also, by the way, an excuse to send tons more money to our enemies.
100%.
And I
Oh, and it's
sometimes I
also
think that the real reason that American Jews are so interested in it because they think it's their Zionism is to make sure that America sends Israel money, but it's not great Zionism anymore, and in fact it hampers us. It hampers our deals with other countries. It hampers our development of our own military stuff that we could sell to the world,
we can
and it's
create
no
our own
longer
stuff.
good.
We can
What?
we already create a lot of weaponry
Yeah, but we're not allowed to sell it because of these
right.
deals a lot of
I'm
times, and America's got veto power and all. It's ridiculous. There's no question. Let's be frank. There's no question that Israel's got to wean itself strong now off of American dependency. That's clear.
the
It's a
American.
strategic. It is a strategic danger for our country to totally depend upon any power, including the United States.
We don't need
One,
that's that part. We don't even need to. And the thing is all of these anti-Israel spokespersons are always giving America all the credit, saying, "Well, we would be destroyed without American support." The truth is is it great to have America as a superpower backing us militarily? Yeah, it's nice, but the problem is when we need to make decisions that fundamental military decisions, fundamental decisions that can severely, either protect or harm the country. And we have Kamala Harris, who doesn't know anything about what's going on there. Zero. All she can do is laugh with her, her corny laugh. Joe Biden isn't even in control in the first place.
I just want you to know. I want to say it right now. I strongly do not like the language that minimizes Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. I see them as much more nefarious. I see them as smart, cunning,
Mm-hmm.
successful in weakening us. And I don't think for 1 second that she doesn't know. I don't know how smart she is or not smart she is. I know that she's part of a radical bent towards shrinking Israel and weakening Israel. And therefore, I treat them very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
They have managed to fund Iran to the tune of about $250 billion. They have helped grow the Iranian economy that has gone directly towards supporting our enemies. They have managed to weaken our response to Hamas. They have managed to allow Iranian ideas to deeply take root inside of America, inside American campus. And they have managed to, at the same time, boycott and sanction Israeli citizens, which is just an unprecedented thing. And therefore, I don't for 1 second concur with any language that minimizes their understanding. I take them very seriously. And so I submit to you that I think it's a much better posture to see them as dangerous enemies as opposed to seeing them as ignorant fools. They are not ignorant fools. They have a direction. They're doing it very well, and she may very likely be the next president of the United States. Okay, so let's not kid around here. And frankly, Rafi, this goes to a farther outlook that we have on enemies in general. We've got a problem in the Jewish people, some kind of hubris. We think that the Arabs are dumb. We think the Iranians are a bunch of,
Towel heads.
they're not. Yeah, they're not. They're not. In fact, they've outclassed us for a long time. And they've outclassed us in international relations. They've outclassed us on American campus, an international campus. They outclass us in social media. They've put chess pieces to destroy us. They have managed to hurt us very badly on October the 7th, and we have to admit it, and we have to stop talking with hubris. Because that hubris only allows the enemy to, they just say, you know, underestimated from day one. We keep moving forward against Israel. And with, inshallah, with time, we will destroy them. It's time to stop taking them for granted. It's time to take them seriously. You know, people in the beginning were like, oh, that Hitler, he's just a noxious rabble rouser. No, he was serious, and he was actually a genius and a very serious leader, and was able to mobilize a humongous war and kill millions. And stop taking them for granted. Take them seriously. Let's put our game face on, bro. It's not a joke anymore. And we were hurt badly. And they're outclassing us so far as well in this fight. And so let's stop. Let's stop that. Like, look at me. Look at my organization. Look at me. Look, we've done this much stuff. Come on. We're not out there winning it. The international sentiment is not with us. Social media is not with us. They've prepared a serious army of social media people against us, and they're acting. You can't put a pro-Israel tweet out without them coming down like a hammer on you.
And well, they would say the other way. They would say the other is true too, that they seem to cancel a lot of like anti-Israel things.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean they do it sometimes, but here's the thing. Here's a good one. What do you say? Well, first off, let me bring this up first. Dan Bilzerian, heard of the guy or didn't hear of the guy?
Dan Bilzerian, which one is he? Oh, is that noxious anti-Israel dude with the mullet?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I heard of him.
Okay, so I want to hear your
I saw his stuff.
I have mine. I want to hear yours. Did you hear the one with Patrick Bet-David? Which one did you see?
What's the crap that you want to deal with? What of his lies do you want to discuss? Which one?
So you say okay. Well, he ultimately says we were responsible for the USS Liberty. We're a pariah. We should be separated from America. We own everything. We run everything. Dissect it for me. What parts are true that you want to just say with your chest? What parts do you think are nonsense? What's your response to what he said? I have my thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
The first response is that where's he coming from? He wants to find excuses to hate Israel and to hate Jews. People like that need excuses to find rationale to hate Jews and to hate Israel. Can you look and find something not bad about the Jews? Yeah. What happened to the USS Liberty, which was all the way back in 1967? It's been. Did you read the Wikipedia article on it? It's huge, and there's been over and over and over, efforts to understand that. It was either an accident, or maybe Israel wanted to fight the war, and push back American NSA ship from our shores, so that we could prosecute our war properly. What I just said now is total conjecture. I have no idea what really happened there. I don't know. I wasn't in power. It was a long time ago. It was years and years before I was born. I don't know what happened on the Liberty, but like, we can have endless. Who killed Bobby Kennedy, a Palestinian? Who did the Twin Towers? Jihadis from Saudi Arabia. Like, bro, let's be real here. The Jews are not the enemies of the United States. To make that assertion is a contrivance to hate on Jews. It is a blood libel. Blood libel is a natural instinct. Okay? It is a way to justify hate against Israel. And that's what these people are doing. And I want to tell you, they are not unsuccessful. They're not unsuccessful. What's his name again? What is it? What is his name again, that dude?
Dan Bilzerian.
Yeah. So he's semi-successful, but much more successful is Candace Owens and Kanye West. And again, the black folks, which are oftentimes the trendsetters on campus, they can either believe that Islam is the thing that always enslaved them. What the ships that came to capture blacks in Africa were always Muslim Arabs who came and raided these countries and collected slaves and then sold them around the world, and that the Jewish people are about liberation from slavery, and that the yearning for Zion and the yearning for a relationship with God is something that we share, and that we share the idea of liberation from slavery, and that God gave the Jewish people the Torah, and that their religion is based on Judaism, and that we have a civilization built on the Bible, and that we have something together forever, and that they should support Israel. And Martin Luther King supported Israel. They could either see it that way, or they could see that the Jews own everything. The Jews abuse Palestinians who are a type of black, and that the Jews killed Jesus, and therefore, really, they're the Antichrist. And look, they're abusing fellow black people. And sadly, that narrative is when Kanye West and Candace Owens get that stuff out there, it goes into the other narrative tree, which is that the Jews are bad, the Jews have everything, and that we need to get rid of those guys. They're the white masters and all that. So if Israel did a better job at sending out the narrative of how Israel is much more like that what they call Judeo-Christian values, and that we have we're about liberation theology and all that we have much more in common. But it doesn't do that. And so when Kanye West comes out with his, and he's perfect, right? Because he's like, I'm nuts, I'm just insane, but I'm just going to say this stuff because that's what crazy things that I'm going to say. But through that, he can say anything. Mm-hmm. And he says the sickest blood libels against the Jews, and it catches. And I was on an American campus at FSU, and the kids told me, they're like, you don't understand. After Kanye West said this, like, there tons of anti-Israelism just came on the scene immediately, and anti-Jewishness.
Well, because it's always there, and now the soup is always boiling. Now it has an opportunity to boil over.
But when Israel is strong and it crushes the jihad, and it says to the world, these jihadis, these are the enslavers of the Arabs, of the blacks.
I see it with myself. I know that I have come across many situations where I interacted with someone who wasn't Jewish, that didn't like Israel, but he respected me because I was so forthcoming that he just didn't say shit.
Forthright.
Yeah. And so he didn't have a choice to respect me for it. And he, as a result, was more open to hearing what I had to say. Definitely. But if I just cowered whenever he said something and I was like, you're right, I don't like it, and then he, what this is? This is more, not that we don't have very strong Ashkenazi Jews in the West Bank like ourselves, but this is much more of an Ashkenazi thing, and I don't care how this sounds, in my opinion, and it's less of a Mizrahi issue. This is what I think. We can disagree.
Look, some of the, it really depends. Like, I come from the tradition, my Russian background is such that my grandparents were the fighters against the Nazis.
Right.
They came on tanks and on infantry to fight the Nazis.
They exist.
That's my Jewish tradition. I know what you're saying, and we do make those kind of jokes here in Israel as well. Like, we use that as in humor, but there's a truth to what you're saying. There's a kind of Woody Allenness that is the kind of thing. It's less prominent
Israel. It's much more of a thing. Let me give you an example.
It's diaspora-ish in any case.
Let me give you an example. There were anti-Israel protesters, anti-Jewish protesters that went to Queens in the Bukharian community. The Bukharian community didn't stand for it for a second. They came out and they went full force against it. Okay, physically, verbally, they just didn't tolerate it. But you have that going on in an area in Flatbush. Yeah, you had, even in Flatbush, people came out, and it's really nice to see it. They're becoming more outspoken, but it's just not the same. Like the Bukharian community.
But look, for example, Chabad and stuff. The Chabad, they're tough. They know how to be tough. It really is about culture. It's about culture. And yeah, Rafi, I want to say something too.
not
I
trying
want
to
to tell
back
you something, Rafi.
more of it's
I don't know who's weak, but I know that your message is strong, and I think that you got to keep pushing that message out. I agree with you. Let me agree with you that having a more Middle Eastern side to you is helpful. Let me say it that way.
for
I'm
sure.
not going to be dissing my Ashkenazi brothers and sisters. I'm going to say a more Middle East consciousness. I'm a Middle Easterner, and I'm not a friar, and I know it, and I understand the consciousness of this region, and I'm actually like an Arab
Yeah,
when
yeah,
needs be is important, and that Mizrahi side is important. I myself come from Ashkenazi stock, although Russian, and that's a certain kind of tough guy.
right.
But I was born in Israel. I am in my heart a kind of Mizrahi. I have some Bukharian blood as well,
No, but
and
you are. We
it's a
are.
it's an it's really up. It's really Rafi. It's really a posture. It's a
Yeah,
posture. Also, another thing about you and me is that we went to the IDF. We served in the army. That also adds a complete degree of
yeah,
consciousness. When you hold a gun and when you're part of the fight, you become, it blows the Woody Allen, you know, away, and you are just, you become much more robust and ready to fight.
for sure.
Rafi, we have been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes, or maybe 2 hours approximately, which is a lot. But I do want you to know, and I love speaking with you, but I do want you to know that tonight I still have
I was just gonna
a
let as long as it was going to. I was, yeah.
I have a municipality meeting tonight of the we have Vadat Shefa, which is the cleanliness and how the town appears. What do we call Vada in English? Committee meeting. So I
Mm.
have to be there in about an hour, and I still haven't rested today because this morning I had the humongous, unbelievable schut merit to see my son go up to the Torah for the first time. He's having his bar mitzvah, and then
Uh,
after that, I had to go to the funeral of Floridian famous person Cherna Moskowitz, who is one. Her and her husband Irving were the builders and the funders, supporters of East Jerusalem projects, Jewish presence in the old city of Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives and in other places, Beit El and Hebron. And then I came home, lie down for literally 10 minutes, and then came on the show with you, which has been awesomely fun. And let me add that I'm going to be in Florida soon, and I really, it's a must for me to come hang out with you. And if you want to do a gig together or something, I'll be more than happy to do it. It could be a small gig, could be a big gig, or whatever you want me to do in Florida. Let me know. And I also want to bless you to continue to broadcast and send the message of Jewish strength, of faith in God, of traditionalism, of a robust and masculine Jewish people, of connection to Jewish brothers and sisters, and our non-Jewish lovers of Israel from throughout the world, and continue to bless you to have more continued steps to connecting to Israel. Of course, we invite you to live here, marry a pro-Israel Jewish girl, drink the wine of the land of Israel, take steps every day to connect with this greatest project of the Jewish people in 2,000 years, which is our return to the land of Israel, the greatest gift that Hashem has given us to be close to Him and rebuild Jerusalem. And that's it. I want to give you blessing to keep attacking, attack the attackers,
mm.
and keep giving strength to our people and lovers of our people.
It's very kind. That's very kind. I definitely want to get a house in Efrat. If I don't live there in the next couple of years, I definitely want to. It's so funny. It's things really come full circle because that's when I was in the army. When I went there, I was telling my buddy Michael, I was like, this is the kind of place I would live in. I love this place. I said that.
It
So it's
is.
funny.
It is a beautiful place, and it is the fulfillment of the rebirth of Judea in our time, and in it is the most beautiful thing in the world. The most beautiful thing in the world. The most beautiful thing in the world is a rebuilt Jerusalem. There's just nothing more beautiful than that.
Yeah.
And Efrat and Judea is the buttress of Yerushalayim to the south and the beautiful Judean hills. It's a as the Christian folks say, it's the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. and it's happening in our time. And it's the most exciting project of the Jewish people in 2,000 years, with all of its serious hiccups. We are building it. We are part of it. And it is the greatest honor of our lifetime to be part of it. And may Hashem give us continued strength to be part of it and to overcome the challenges that we're facing today. And Bezrat Hashem, we're going to come out stronger through this and bigger. And our enemies, do you know what the number one hard thing for our enemies to swallow is? That no matter all the crap that they sling at us, some of it successful, we're still here.
Yep.
We're still smiling. We're still getting married. We still have tremendous joy with all the pain that they inflict on us. We continue to thrive. And that's because Allah wills it.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't stop it.
Yeah,
and that just drives them insane. And that's the most beautiful thing in this world. There's nothing more beautiful than that rebirth that's happening now. And with all of their slings and arrows, they cannot stop this thing from progressing forward because Allah wills it. That's all there is to it. And the Jewish people are tenacious. And we've got to right now, Rafi, in this generation, keep spreading that tenacity. I really, and please do not think I'm just like blowing smoke. I'm telling you seriously, I bless you to continue to send that pride onwards. It's important. Your effort on this channel, these channels, is important. It gives people heart and courage. And that's what we have to do right now. Like the Lubavitcher Rebbe did, send out that courage. We've got to send out that courage and that faith right now, and that strengthening of our Jewish connection, and purchasing that apartment in our house in Efrat, et cetera, et cetera. We got to do that. And of course, marry a Jewish girl.
Oh, no, that's
continue the peoplehead forward.
That's a given. That's a given. First of all, I'm doing that on my own accord, but my grandmother would absolutely. She's alive. She has dementia, but even with her dementia, she'd cut my head off. So don't worry about
Jewish girl, right?
Hopefully not. Don't worry, Yishai. This is not even a question. What was I going to say? Well,
are you going to say goodbye and let me go and bless me? Because that's what it's time for.
Okay. All right. Great. Yeah, this has been one of my favorite episodes so far. I've done 100 and almost 200 episodes. You're going to be 185, 186. Thank you again.
Yeshiva University is on 185th Street in New York City. So it's a good number.
It ain't too bad. It ain't too bad. All right, bro. It has been a pleasure, bro. Thank you again for the over 2 hours of time you've given me. Make sure, guys, to like, subscribe, share, follow Yishai on Instagram. You're right, at Yishai Fleisher on Instagram?
Yeah, Yishai Fleisher on Instagram and on Twitter, and on Facebook, and on YouTube, we're Yishai Fleisher TV. And we're putting out
He's
as
all
much
over the place.
truth as we can from the land of Israel. And if people want to support the projects of beautification of the land of Israel, and the continued broadcasting, that they could go to yishaifleisher.com. And, we all got to support each other right now in strength, and people should support you as well for what you're doing as well, Rafi. So, Rafi, thank you so much. Toda rabba. God bless you.
Absolutely, Bekif. We will speak. Yes, sir.
God bless you. Toda rabba.